Okay, I was going to stream real quick because I found the videos that I was looking for. I sat here and I asked my husband what the video was. I was sitting beside my husband yesterday. He was listening to another one of Cwic's videos, and I heard him. He was talking to Paul Marrow, and I heard Paul Marrow get to this one part of his story, and immediately I was like, I just rewatched it again. So there's a tiny bit of difference between our stories, but so I didn't realize. So I guess in Paul Marrow at one, he helped change the laws in Utah so that we do have the ability to homeschool. And let me share the page because let's see, share. Because this is what Cwic is talking about today. Let's go over this real quick.
At the Sutherland Institute, and we talk about the culture wars. Do we step back and put ourselves circle ourselves in a fort and rally, or rather circle the wagons and step out of the world, step out of Babylon? Or is it a responsibility for us to step into Babylon and try to make a difference outside of just preaching the gospel? Do we engage in the culture wars? You should ask yourself that. And as you listen to this discussion, do a little self-reflection, think about it, and decide what your role should be.
Well, I say when the state also brings it on. I've been trying to bring awarenesses from the beginning of the year since Trump took office. Been trying to bring this to because it's hard, and to bring this stuff to the forefront. Maybe, I don't know, maybe this will help, because we are losing our rights, and because it's the way people view culture and culture wars. So like right now we're talking about homeschooling. Why don't they want you to homeschool your kids? Is it legal to homeschool your kids in Utah? Yes, it is. In Utah, do you have to you don't have to run your curriculum by the state. You sign a little piece of paper when you withdraw your kids from school. It says, yes, I am responsible for my child's education. BRB. And so you sign a thing saying, yes, I'm responsible for my child's education, to educate them. And then Utah does have some websites with their standards. And so you can actually follow that curriculum if you want, because Utah does say, well, if you're going to homeschool, we can outline some of the curriculum for you. And it's been almost 2 years. You'll have to ask my husband the website. I can't remember it because I totally forgot it because it's been such a long time. But anyways, Utah does help you out with the curriculum if you don't know where to go. But ultimately, the law states that, and I joke and I say stuff like, well, if I wanted to like bring my kids into homeschool and teach them about Satan, like totally, that's my right. I'm not going to do that. But I mean, that's how the world treats you. And the reason why they don't want you homeschooling is because they see that what you have to teach your kids, and especially if you are religious, you're limiting your children. That way, if society teaches your kids, well, then they'll learn to possibly be trans, especially if they're autistic. And my children are autistic. They try and bring them into this LGBTQ world. And if society raises your children, then that means that your children will believe in anything and everything. That their views aren't going to be limited by religion and all that other stuff that gives you rules and limits you, because people see rules as limits. We have laws of the land. They don't limit you. I mean, I guess you can't unalive just anybody, I guess. But do you want people just unaliving people? I mean, you don't really want people out there just believing anything and everything and doing anything and everything. But anyways, here's another great quote from this show that shows what Paul Marrow is truly saying, what is really going on.
Safe places on earth, your home and the house of the Lord, period. Those are the only two safe places.
Yes. And that is true. Like right now, the way that, and but see, that's why they don't want you homeschooling your children, because they see those two places as limiting their ability. And so I'll let you see Paul Marrow's story real quick, and then I'll share a little bit of my story. And one thing why I'm glad Paul Marrow kind of came out with this is it shows you how aggressive the states are getting towards homeschooling. States that don't allow homeschooling aren't going to allow them. And states that do allow homeschooling, well, they're going to take your children so that they can put them back in school.
That is a moment. That to us was an existential moment for our family. And they said, well, if there's a religious exemption if you're like the Amish, but there's not a religious exemption for an individual who wakes up one day and says, oh, I want to homeschool my kids. So I had to argue, we had to argue that right of individual religious conscience. We argued that parents have the right to control the upbringing and education of their children. And as Latter-day Saints, it's not a right, but we have access to revelation. And we argued, there's our revelation right there. We don't want anybody else educating our children. And we feel by revelation that we're supposed to homeschool these kids. And the AG said, that's ridiculous. Who do you think you are? What do you mean revelation? In other words, like, we're weird, right? We're not Babylon. We're outcasts. We're outsiders. We're odd. We're a peculiar people. And the only way we won that was I worked for a congressman at the time, and he stepped in and he said, here, put your response on my letterhead. And I never heard from the AG again.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. Well, the RFMA is a lot like that, right? Where it's you're looking at there's no individual protection with the RFMA, right? Because the RFMA went out and said, okay, well, if you're an institution, if you're an organization.
Oh, and see, so he got lucky because, okay, he's facing the AG, which that's what you face when you go to court. He has his friend in the governor's office, so he writes it on that letterhead, and the AG, because the AG actually works for the governor. So you got DCFS, which works for the Department of Human Services, Human and Health Services, the DHHS, and the DHHS works for the AG, and the AG works for the governor. And that's how high it goes in this, at least in Utah. So you have the governor, the AG does the governor's bidding in court, and then you have the Department of Human Services that has the ombudsmans and DCFS. Now, the DCFS has to listen to what the ombudsman say, because when you go to DCFS website, it'll tell you, oh, if you have a problem with DCFS, call an ombudsman. Well, they could tell DCFS, naughty, you're doing bad, but they can't tell DCFS, no, you're doing bad, fix it. Because DCFS actually has pretty much, they're basically strictly right under the AG, and whatever the AG wants, she gets, and he or she, whatever the AG wants, the AG gets. And whether it's legal or not, because the governor isn't watching over the AG. And I've been told by an ombudsman, well, get in line. The only thing higher than me as an ombudsman is the governor. And you can try like all the other families, but you ain't getting your kids back. And you're sitting here like totally defeated because I don't have a letterhead from a governor to get the AG off of my back for taking my kids because I homeschooled them. And I'm not the only one here in Utah. Like, they're 6 degrees of separation. I know a couple other families who it took them a year to get their kids back. I still haven't gotten mine back. And like he said, well, there's an exemption, but not an exemption for somebody who just wakes up one morning and says, I want to homeschool my kids. Well, DCFS, that's how they're playing it in court. It's kind of funny he uses those words because those are the words of an AG. The AG sat in court and said, well, these guys just woke up one morning and they decided that they didn't want to send their kids to school anymore and they didn't want to feed their kids anymore. And they just decided over the summer that they just didn't want to take care of their kids. I guess me and my husband, we just woke up one morning and said, we don't want to take care of the 3 kids we have anymore. We're done. And then we just sat there and let it happen. Just let whatever happen. And it's, and as much as the judge has been told the actual real truth that my dad died, my grandma died, and the kid I babysat for 5 years unalived himself, and I had a really bad summer, and I had to clean up my dad's estate, which was in my home because my dad lived with me. So when you clean up, anybody knows who cleans up anybody's estate. And it doesn't take a day or two to clean up somebody's stuff after somebody's gone. It takes time, especially when you're by yourself and doing it all alone by yourself. And so they pretended like, oh no, they always lived this way. And they just woke up one morning and said, I don't want to deal with it anymore. I don't want to deal with school. I don't want to deal with the house. I don't want to deal with the kids. I don't want to deal with food. I don't want to deal with anything. And then me and my husband just sat on our butts. And my lawyer did tell me, she said the AG gets what the AG wants. And they said, well, the thing is because they couldn't prove. They lied to get us into court, but they couldn't prove the lie. So they couldn't take our parental rights. So I still have my parental rights, but they gave guardianship away, though. They took my guardianship. Why? Because guardians get to decide where the child lives and goes to school. And when they gave the kids to my 25-year-old son first, they told him, do not homeschool these kids. Do not. And then 3 weeks later, they went and apologized to my son and said, actually, that was illegal of us to tell you not to homeschool, by the way. And we're actually technically not allowed to tell you that you can't homeschool these kids because you are the guardian and, well, you are allowed to homeschool them if that is your choice. But seeing how you already kind of put them in school, go ahead and just, keep them in school. And I mean, they already intimidated my son enough. I mean, me at my age is already intimidated by them. And that's how they got a hold of my kids, because they intimidated me out of each and every one of my rights. And then they intimidated my son. And then when the kids got passed off to my mom, they did the same thing over again. 1 week, my mom is telling me, I'm going to go help you get your kids back. The next week, all of a sudden, she's telling me, oh no, DCFS came and visited me. Actually, I can't give them back to you, and I can't help you get them back. And I guess I'm keeping them, and I got to put them in school. And I'm sitting here going, what did they say to you to all of a sudden get you to flip on your own daughter and say, and it's because they're dangling the kids like a reward or a treat or something. There's like, do you want the kids? Do you want the kids? Do what we say, or we're going to put them in state's custody. If you don't, and technically they're legally not allowed to do that. And legally, as long as I have a family member that'll take the kids, they're not legally allowed to put them into state's custody because they're ordered by the judge not into state's custody, into family custody. And But that does not stop them from sitting there threatening my family and telling my family, if you don't do exactly as we tell you to do, we will take these kids from you, we will put them in state's custody, and you will never see them again. I even recorded it. I have a recording, sent it to my lawyer, because they sit there and said, they told my mom, we've done all this work to keep the kids in the family. If you screw up, they're like, we're going to close this case. And if you screw up after the case closure, well, we're just ripping these kids from the family. And all this work we've done to keep them in the family, it's all your fault. Like you screwed up. We're gonna. And so they keep dangling the kids in front of all of my family members, sitting there saying, if you don't listen to us, if you don't, because anything DCFS says is not legally binding unless they get the judge to make it legally binding. So when you have those monthly meetings with DCFS, like there's so much education people need on DCFS. And I've been sitting here for the last several months thinking, well, if we get rid of the DCFS system, we need something better put in place. What is better put in place? And what came to my mind was, well, if it does take a village to raise children, then when your neighbor's in trouble, instead of picking up the phone and calling DCFS, an entity that is selfish and mean and works for the government and not for us, we the people, our government is supposed to work for us, we the people, and it doesn't work for us. And he shouldn't have had to get the AG in. Paul Merrill shouldn't have had to get the AG in, or the government in on his, because the AG was like, until the governor got in. Well, yeah. And so what I think is, instead of picking up the phone, maybe you should knock on your neighbor's door and say, I notice you're struggling. Do you need help? What do you need help with? See, this is also why people don't like LDS people. We believe in living the law of consecration, and that is actually what God has been saying has been the answer to our problems all along, is the law of consecration. Go help your neighbor with whatever you have, whatever you are a steward over in this life, because you don't own anything. It all belongs to the Lord. And you, as somebody's neighbor, shouldn't be calling DCFS, CPS. You should be going next door and giving whatever you can, and going to your neighbors and giving whatever they can. And everybody give to everybody what you can. And if everybody were to give what they can and quit calling these, they will lose their power. They're only in power because we pick up that phone and we call them. Imagine if they got 0 phone calls. Imagine if everybody decided, Mormon or not, let's live the law of consecration. Let's help our fellow neighbors. Rich help the poor. Poor give service to the rich, because you can't give money or things, but you can give time and everything else. And everybody give what you can, whether it be money or food or time or service or whatever, support, advice, whatever. And if everybody just gets together and says, thank you for that advice, I will think about it. And if you respect somebody, if they say, well, I do like your advice, but I'll do part of it or none or some of it, or because everybody just says, no, I'm going to give you my advice and you're going to take it and you're going to do it. And if you don't do it, I'm going to call DCFS because you won't do what I say. So I'm going to make the law make you do what I say. So the answer to this is to grow together as a community. The Lord has been telling it to us for years, through the Book of Mormon, through everything, through Joseph Smith, through Brigham Young, through everybody, through the restoration of the church. They have been telling us that the law of consecration is the answer to our problems. And nobody's listening, because that is when we stop relying on our government is when they stop having power. And so just think about that and let me know what you guys think. I just want to do this quick thing and kind of tell a little bit of my story and kind of show you how, like, people are getting so offended. Like 30, 40 years ago, if you were homeschooled, nobody kind of batted an eye. Oh, there was one more thing I want to show you guys. Oh. one more thing, what I wanted to show you guys, because one day I was looking in the gospel library. There was something I was told that I got a inkling that I had to go look up, and all I knew I all I knew I needed to go look up. Okay, I'm gonna try and look for the sharing button. Share. I didn't share every tab I had open. Hello. All I knew is I had to go look up this certain Ensign magazine in 1979, and it was in April. I thought it was an April one, but I ended up stumbling across this other article. If you go back to 1979, because Paul Merrill was talking about 1978 and forward, and you should homeschool your kids. And people are like, if you think back into the 80s, you think, well, the school wasn't bad in the 80s, right? I mean, there's not a big deal in the 80s, right? Well, let's go back to April 1979. Napa Valley Sisters and Sex Edu. Whoops. Okay, I didn't notice that it wasn't on here, so you guys didn't see the tree I just went through. So Ensign, 1979, April. We're going to go to April. Scroll down to I have a question, Napa Valley Sisters and Sex Education. This article is about a bunch of LDS women in Napa Valley who stopped sex education coming to our kindergartners in 1979. The Marxists tried it out all the way back in 1979. Good read. Go read it. April Ensign, April 79. Napa Valley Sisters and Sex Education. I could not believe it. I'd never found the article I was actually looking for, but I stopped on this article and read it to my husband, and mind blown. So yeah, go look up that article and tell me what you guys think. And we need to band together, and we do need to fight this culture war. If people want to homeschool, they should be able to homeschool. And we need to live closer to the law of consecration. We need to be helping out our neighbors. And we need to stop picking up that phone and calling the government to deal with it. Unless you can tell me in the comment section that you 100% believe there's no corruption in our government, no Gaddy Anton robbers, no secret combinations, no nothing. Pretend like you didn't just see in Utah a bunch of judges, psychologists, police officers, all arrested, and life coaches all arrested for child stuff. Pretend you did not see that. Pretend that is not happening. Look the other way and tell me you trust our government. All right, you guys. Love you guys. I'll talk to you guys later.